Ladies and gentlemen, the Cosmonarchy continues. This is going to be Hupsaiya's Protoss against Eud64's Terran on Derelict 2. This was played about a week ago now, and we have got lots of games, and I've got lots of games to cast, so join us for these daily castovers and enjoy what we've got here in the realm of the No Frauds Club. We are talking about Cosmonarchy. It's Hupsaiya in the top right, Eud64 in the bottom left. And yeah, what is Cosmonarchy all about, you may ask? Let me just tell you. You can elevator pitch Cosmonarchy as, imagine if Starcraft had 50 units per race and no upgrades or supply. Just let them simmer on that. And if they're still interested, they're like, whoa, what? Maybe you can even say no supply or upgrades and then, have 50 units per race be the second thing. Because they're like, wait. Because at first they're like, oh, you're just removing stuff and making it simple. And then you say 50 units per race, and they're like, wait. Their whole reality starts to bend. And that's the kind of thing that you can get after. So, it's interesting. In fact, maybe people can put in the comments section of this video, or maybe on the Discord server or something, some of their testimonials of, like, when they first found Cosmonarchy, especially if it's been more recent. I know we got some old heads in the chat who watch us all the time, and that's very nice. We got a lattice first here for Hupsaiya. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, it's curious, right? I want to know what people thought of the project when they first stepped into it. And, if you can tell me precisely when, or at least approximately when you found it, then that would also be helpful as well. Just getting a little bit of a feel for, We have had some feedback saying that, like, at first you seem to write it off because it's just a Brood War mod, but then you realize, holy shit, it's a whole game and it's like completely different. And the more you're exposed to it through maybe a streamer like Hupsaiya, in fact, or indeed as Top Ramen is starting to stream Cosmonarchy these days. Shout out Top Ramen. He's not here right now in this game, but or is he? No, he wasn't spectating. But how insane would that have been? That would have looked scripted. Anyway, we do have a double lattice opener here for Hupsaiya. We'll talk about this game. We've talked about the game, but let's talk about this match that's being played right now. It's going to be Lattice first, Vassal into Terran. So Lattice is, that's the only flying unit you can get from the Lattice. It's like a robotics bay, right? Like it trains 5 robotics units, and so one of them happens to be the Vassal. And I guess this one will just be antagonizing this Mason. You can do some moving shots here to speed it up if you want, but obviously, how often is Hupsaiya going to be doing that? I mean, he's already slacking on his rally if he wanted to send that other Vassal out there. And it looks like Eud wants to try to intercept this Vassal to avenge the fallen Mason. Mason, it's me, Avenger Man. And if you don't know what that's a reference to, you should play Trenches, which is one of our campaigns that are available for download. Definitely check it out. Yeah, we even have campaigns in this goddamn project. Can you believe it? Soon we'll have everything. So this is curious. We've got idols coming in the background, right? Because he scouted and he sees that there was indeed a commitment to the Maverick. It was a 1 stockade expand from EUD, and he adds a watchdog. When you see this, you can hold shift to reveal the weapon range of stuff, and so you can see this does pretty good coverage of the mineral line. A little bit less so for the Vespene, but he can add a second one if need be. And until the Vassals get really numerous, it's going to be quite hard for Hup to be able to nuke down an individual watchdog. It's got 2 armor, and the Vassal deals 6 damage, but has no armor pen, so it's actually going to be dealing 4 damage per hit. And of course, you factor in repair that Terran has. It's probably not going to be able to do too much there. The rate of repair has been adjusted very slightly, and the same is true for the rate of healing. From the Cleric, which is the new name for the Medic. And the reason why those things were adjusted is because the average pool of health is a bit higher in Cosmonarchy. We tried to increase the time it takes to kill something, the time to kill, because that way there's a little bit more time to adjust or adapt to certain strategies or what have you. So I think that's been broadly successful. That was a change we did maybe half a year ago now, so it was definitely some time ago. Maybe even longer than that, actually. Hard to say. Been working on Cosmonarchy for 7 years. 7 long years, and look at where it's taken us. We don't think our next game is going to take that long, but, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Got lots of aspirations. A third lattice here for Hupsaiya. I wonder if he wants to shark in here with the Vassals and actually see if he can, make something happen. But, Mavericks are pretty good at this sort of thing. They still got the stim pack as per usual, but unlike in StarCraft 1 where you have to research stuff, right? All the researches and upgrades are gone. They're just rolled into the unit at frame 0, as I like to say, at the very first moment of the game. So as soon as you put down a Maverick, it has, the increased range, the 5 weapon range that it would normally... I think it normally gets 6 from the upgrade, actually. I might be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I've dialed in on precisely what those upgrades were. Oh, Double Covenant. Okay, EUD playing an interesting style here. Yeah, this game, Hupsaiya said that EUD built a lot of units that he doesn't normally see versus Terran. And this was, again, played a week ago, so the meta shifts pretty massively, pretty quickly. We should see Hup go down for that Nexus. There it is, in his natural. But he's obviously behind the 8-ball when it comes to economics, right? His opponent already has that expansion up, the quarry coming in. And with these idols to deal some splash damage, the bio will probably struggle. He's going to try to kill this quarry. He might be able to get it, but he's going to have to turn and fight. And look at that, some nice little flanking Mavericks coming out over here to nullify the stim pack there, or to nullify the idol push. Now this is a problem where he's engaging from all the same spot, and he's also being held at an arm's length thanks to those vassals. So what's he going to do now? He's making savants for the penetrating shot. That's absolutely going to work out for him, but he will lose the quarry in the end because he was not repairing it. And I'm not sure if Hup is aware that they deal... Okay, looks like maybe one of them is on Power Siphon. Yeah, it looks like they're both on Power Siphon, so they won't be dealing the crowd control damage. He's going to instead try to charge himself up there. And it's working because the idols are busy trying to deal with other things. Remember, the worker count is about even right now. He can remake the quarry. He's already got a quarry down here that gives him an extra worker production queue. Back at home, Hup just has a bunch of vassals. He hasn't been producing anything else. But, he's done what he needed to do to stay in this game, economically speaking, to make it a little bit more even. Even though his opponent still has a little bit more on the worker side and can produce workers faster than him, that's still helping him out a little bit. I do want to talk about the Savant. So when you see the status down here, it says Entropy Gauntlets. That's the crowd control move. I definitely feel like that would have helped EUD out a little bit versus the Vassals, since obviously the Vassals don't have any armor, so any sort of kinetic penetration that the Savants have, or that the Cyprians have. I think there was a Cyprian being made. Yeah, here he is. The Cyprian also does a penetrating shot. And the Idol doesn't have enough armor to withstand it, and the same is true for the Savant. So anchors being put down here. If the Savants are... So he's got 2 in Power Siphon, and he's got a couple in... Or maybe he switched them all to Power Siphon. It's hard to say. There's going to eventually be a read for that. But yeah, the Cyprian gets doven on, the anchor not being able to set up, but a couple of these were still in the crowd control mode, and you can see how much more powerful that has been for the Terran in this case. The Savants absolutely wrecking face. And at the end of the day, one of them stands, and the reinforcements are also here. You can fit 2 Savants to an anchor, 2 Cyprians to an anchor as well if he wants to go that route. And it looks like that was just enough crowd control for him to hold on, because Hupsaiya almost had that nice timing attack. But now he's going to fall on back. He's going for the Ardent Authority. He does have an embassy up. So we have even production queues for workers. We got the 1 quarry at the Treasury Natural. The Treasury is like a tempo structure you build. It's very easy to destroy by comparison to the Ministry, but you build it to try to set up a quick base, and then you add on the quarry most of the time for worker production. Meanwhile, back at home, the Ministry that you started with and the quarry also train workers. So you got 3 worker production queues there. And for Hupsaiya, you've got 2 Nexuses and you have the Embassy. And the Embassy can train more units than just the Scribe, but it can also, indeed, train the Scribe. And it looks like Hupsaiya is going to try to do some kind of soft contain here. This is an opportunity where, obviously... I like some of the underdog units, the units that people don't always respect or put respect on the name. But I actually think Eidolons could be good. At least having like 1 or 2 Eidolons here wouldn't be a bad idea, because you'd basically be like poking these units out from the safety. Eidolon is the new name for the Ghost, and it's permanently cloaked because there's no like energy-based cloaking in the game anymore. And the way that you decloak it is by going near it. So if you play to the cliff, or you play to, like out on the extremities, and you just like, harass the units, break their shields, start doing some damage, and then kite backwards, and then have, your defensive Maginot line of Terran back at home to fall back to. That would be something to allow you to slowly ease out of the containment. But there's a couple of other alternatives, right? EUD looks like he's just going to go for... Oh, I thought that might have been a Fulcrum. He's going to go for a Treasury, and I guess he's going to try to bust out at some point. He could also use the anchors, right? Like lift those off and move them over. All of the Terran structures can lift off, except for add-ons, which eventually you'll be able to pick them up with transports. But right now that's not a feature, because we got to organize that a little bit in the code. That's something to do after the tournament, I think. We're running a prized Cosmonarchy tournament right now. It's very exciting. Looks like the Ardent Authority is done. It was made in making an Acantor. We also have a Cantavus, which is the new name for the High Templar. Acantor being the new name for the Reaver. Both of those units worked very differently, so it's actually good to have a new name for them, because if I said, oh, he's going to go ahead and do a Templar drop, then you'd think, oh, he's going to Psystorm. And, he might, but Psystorm works very differently, right? And the Cantor bullet is very different than the Scarab from the Reaver, right? So here we go. It's Mass Harakan trying to charge in and rend the already limited armor for this particular composition to make them even more brittle. That's what the fire does. You can see these units having 0 armor compared to the ones in the back that had 1 armor still. Now, at this point, the front line is mostly dead, and you can use the cliff advantage from gumming up to this cliff. The Idol's definitely going to be able to do some splash damage. But something to note about the Idol, it doesn't really come into effect in this particular comp. Their projectiles get intercepted. Oh, these vassals are really stacked up. You got to watch out for that. Now, here's the hallucinating Scarab hit. You can see what happens there. So the hallucination field causes any unit to be struck by an attack to then have the attacker create another set of projectiles. And since it's splash damage, it basically creates like, I don't know, there was probably like 3 or 4 Cantor shots there. So it's really good that EUD fell back there, because he absolutely would have gotten bopped. Psystorm is a much more slow boil now, because it has a channel time, and once it casts, it still deals pretty respectable damage, but it deals it over a longer period of time. So individual ticks of it are not as impactful. There's another hallucination, and you can see, man, that is going to start rending those Savants. Now, at the same time, those vassals are all dead. They were all stacked up against each other, and the Savants definitely having a lot of power here. Now, at this point, where's the sort of pseudo front line, right? Savants are starting to fall. There is an Atreus out. Look at that, the hallucinating Cantor there, getting the power from those shots. I think the Atlas just finished behind here, so that's something. And we did just hear the Envoy scoop up the Cantavis for maybe a drop. Might also go for that Cantor at some point, right? Thinking about a 4th base here is Hupsaiya. He's gonna go ahead and continue adding the Atreus. It does splash damage like the Idol. However, the Idol, basically its projectile can be intercepted by anything, so that's something to watch out for. Mantle, Captaincy, bunch of structures coming up over here. A lot of idle workers there for a moment for EUD. One thing that you'll notice about Cosmonarchy is because we didn't add in the right click to automatically harvest rally stuff. The interesting thing to think about, right, is like, well, the workers are just going to sit there. Oh, here's a potential storm drop. You got to watch out. EUD having good reactions, and this lasts for 10 seconds, so this will shut down mining for a little bit, right? So it's still sometimes good to throw down, just to make it so that it delays the return, right? And still getting nicked by that a little bit as well. But yeah, since we have multi-building select in Cosmonarchy, so you can queue up a lot of extra workers, but that means you're going to have a lot of extra workers idle if you ever miss, like, say, for 30 seconds you aren't looking at your base, because each worker training time is 15 seconds. Looks like both of our players are thinking about a 4th base, but Hupsaiya is already harvesting from distance, and he's already setting up the Nexus, whereas EUD just has this guy over here thinking about it. It's still a twinkle in the eye. Looks like both players balling up for now. Putting up some tier 2 defenses. It's actually a lot of Watchdogs on only 1 Sentinel. So that's probably for like anti-drop and also maybe to get rid of the vassals. Nice detection with the Anciel to reveal that witness. There are no static detections for static defense. So you're not going to be able to build, say, a Watchdog, for example, and detect anymore. The missile turret equivalent does not detect. Random exploratory Savant, going to get bopped. Let's see what else that we can do here. He's got a nice little spread so that the splash damage that Hupsaiya has been trying to build around isn't super effective yet, but now they're balling up to the top. Now the Cantor is in the back, so it's not going to be able to take advantage of that hallucination, but a lot of those units were just staying in the field, so they were absolutely getting bopped there. There is a fully charged Madcap here, but he's about to meet his maker. Gets slapped a little bit there in the power siphon on the Savants, which decreases attack rate of the victim and increases the attack rate of the Savant. It's like an attack rate steal. That was working out pretty well for good old EUD here, but at the end of the day, not quite enough. Look at this. We're seeing an army of manifolds pop out. This is actually an underrated move. Not just because, of course, I always, like I said, I have an affinity for the underdog units as the project's lead developer. The Manifold is like something that you can think of it as like half of a Drakadin, which is the new name for the Dragoon. And when you're thinking about it like that, you can kind of see where you would maybe use it. It's like, it's still better than a Maverick. It's not as good as a Madcap. It's like somewhere in between, right? So you've got these kinds of like all-rounder units, and that's sort of what the Manifold is all about. So the reason why Hupsaiya is going for the Manifold here, if I had to speculate, is because he sees that his opponent doesn't have that much crowd control. The crowd control that he does have is like the Durandal with the flamethrower, the Harakans with the flamethrower. And those guys are going to get melted by the hit scan damage of the Manifold, right? Now, the crowd control of the Savant with the armor penetration could still work out. And in fact, it looks like that's going to be more than enough right now. Perhaps a little bit of a surprise for Hupsaiya. He's trying to fall back and use his stack of Acantors and use his Atriuses to shield versus the line trace damage. But the Savants have a really nice surround spread, and they are absolutely going to be able to do stuff here. There's a nice little hallucination that's going to allow the Manifolds to deal an extra bit of damage. And indeed, that will be an end for that fight. There's like a little bit of a gaggle of heavy infantry over there that need to fall back, and indeed they will. This base is starting to be set up. The anchors flew over and abandoned the ship over here so that they will be able to help safeguard that base, and we're finally starting to see some architects hit the field. So architects are like the actual siege. I know you guys were seeing Acantors, and they look like they look like Reavers. They sound a little bit like Reavers, although we have a custom sound file for their attack rate and stuff like that. The difference is that the Acantor doesn't outrange a lot of base defenses. So there is going to be a double drop, which is very interesting. You can't fit two in a Envoy, so it's not like it is for the other round, right? But I'm looking at the architects and I'm thinking, okay, those guys are going to be able to outrange a lot of static defense. I think they outrange or have the even range with the Sentinel, and because of flash shielding for the Protoss, they can take a shot, fall back, recharge, take a shot, and repeat, right? We do have a lot of workers setting up here at the 9 o'clock position. Where are these envoys going to go? Because they could do massive damage to one of these worker lines. We do have guild halls coming out, so that's where all the Olympians are being sourced from. It's a one mantle for the Durandal. Okay, so we thought about dropping over here. Looks like instead he's just going to see what he can do to break down the Sentinel. And scooping him up. Alright, that Sentinel is guaranteed dead. Trying to respond to it with some defenders. The way that the Olympian passive works is that they gain armor penetration when targeting a unit from behind. But it doesn't have too much of an impact on the Envoy, since the Envoy doesn't have a lot of armor. But you can imagine trying to deal with, say, like a heavy capital ship or something, and then it turns around and you have a bunch of Olympians just shredding it. Something like a Star Sovereign. The Olympians can break it. In many cases, they can destroy it before it can finish the glassing channel. Because yes, the glassing beam is indeed a thing in here. Maybe we'll even see that in this game. We'll see. The Cantors are going to get Doven on. That's a little unfortunate. He tries to scoop that one up. Not going to be able to do it. And so now the threat has subsided. Hupsaiya losing a little bit of control over there. But hey, he's up in bases, right? He's taken 3 o'clock. And of course he has 12. The equivalent 6 o'clock base has not been taken by EUD yet. What can he do now that he's up a base? And continues to be up a base, right? He's trying to push in. He's got some interesting compositions here. Love the robotics only play from him. But we've got a sort of bio only play from EUD. Who's going to run out, right? Bio versus robotics. We got a lovely set of architects on the high ground taking advantage of their range, but the Hurricanes are absorbing so much of that damage, the front line, stopping them from getting the missile splits. When those missiles go far enough, they split into additional missiles for extra damage. But if they're attacking a melee unit like the Durandal or the Hurricanes before, they're not going to be able to do too much. And I think that was a very big factor. The Cantavis wasn't really adding to the fight too much. Now we've got Uptectons for great splash damage. Let's see if that's going to be enough to turn this fight, because I feel like once you give up this hill, it's really hard to use range against the Terran army. Now thinking about maybe coming up here, there are 2 engrams up, but that's a hard base to hold. We'll see if 12 o'clock is even in the sights for EUD. He's going to continue charging down, trying to use that Durandal to buy a lot of space to get in there. And look at that, he does manage to absolutely destroy the last architect, but there are so many Uptectons now. Once this many Uptectons hit the field, remember, there are 3 Ancestral Archives, so that's like the ultimate tier of ground for the for this sort of thing. I love the one Olympian tickling that structure back there. That's a big deal, right? That's a huge deal for Hupsaiya to have that kind of switch in, and he's really going to own the ground right now. So you need something that deals with that. Now, normally on the ground, you can think of phalanxes, the siege tank replacement, but that's been omitted by what EUD has been doing. So instead, he's going to switch into air, add some rotaries, and go for Sundogs. A great choice, because they are specialized at dealing with high armor targets. The problem is, I don't know if he's going to be able to withstand the Uptecton push, because there's so many of them, but they are very, very immobile. Now, these golems have also been clutched. There's a, oh my god. Imagine the hallucination shots where the Uptectons do multiple rounds. You are dead, man. Yeah, there you go. You just saw moments before disaster. And so the splash damage coming in, these sort of Gigawalkers popping on in here. Eventually, they'll be a lot bigger and more befitting of the role of Gigawalker. Well, there you go. 6 o'clock is out. of contention, and I think 9 o'clock will soon be destroyed as well. Those nothing in those anchors. They were just there to buy a little bit of time, and I suppose they did that to a lesser extent, to a limited extent. EUD building up some Sundogs. He's trying to get more units out of his main production here, but oh no, all of the Masons have died. Utter devastation, and the treasury is down. I feel like this is the last hurrah for EUD. He's doing his best to control this under pressure, but I don't know if he's got it, right? His production's... he's been keeping up on production overall, right? He wasn't really able to use too much from the stockades. I guess a couple extra Harakans wouldn't hurt, right? In that sort of situation. He spent down his money because he was trying to save up the minerals so that he could get the Daedala. So I guess that's probably why he wasn't producing a lot of units. It's a very expensive structure. But that's another thing where it's like, okay, we're waiting for all the Sundogs. Well, now we're waiting for Tier 3 so he can maybe get some Diadems, because that absolutely dismantles a lot of ground pushes, especially like artillery stuff like what the Uptectons are. Diadems are the ion cannon, but actually they are a unit that you can build, a structure you can build. So, but that's like 3 minutes away right now. It's 2 minutes for the Tier 3 structure, and it's about a minute for the diadem itself. So he's going to try to hold on, but where are the Sundogs, right? Like, okay, he's got 5 Sundogs, but there's Patriarchs here to deal with the splashed air. So he's going to have to cycle back and think about what he wants to do here. I'm not so sure he can make it happen, man. There you go. Oh, no, more Patriarchs just showed up. They're going to chew through these. There's no way those Sundogs are going to be able to do anything. GG is called, and Hupsaiya manages to take the game. A 21-minute banger. Protoss versus Terran. You got to see a whole bunch of different tech. We're big fans of that around Cosmonarchy, around here in the No Frauds Club. If you thought that game was good, come on, toss a like, toss a sub, you know, pump these numbers up, hop into the Discord server. You like Cosmonarchy so much, you can even send us money in the coffee link you see in the bottom right. You know, there's places to go, people to see, you know, races of different alien forms to destroy. There's so many things you can do. You can even be racist, dude. Come on, join us. GG's.